Welcome back to the Real Slim Fatty Show. I'm your host, Fatty Hawatma. And today I'm going to tell you a number. And this number changed my entire life 306. That was the number on the scale the day I finally decided to step on it after years of refusing to weigh myself. 306 pounds. I stood there in my bathroom in my underwear, staring at it. And I didn't even recognize the person standing on the scale. I always thought in my head, I'm like, I'm a little bigger, 250, 260, maybe. Because in my head, I was fine. I was building a company. I was focused on that. I was closing deals, generating income, investment. I was in the arena. I thought I was good. I was 306 pounds and I thought I was fine. And this is not a fitness episode. This is an episode about what happens when you sacrifice yourself for your company so slowly that you don't even notice you're disappearing. And I lost myself for a very, very long time. On the last episode, I talked about that we were going to talk about real stuff this season. And this is the realest of the real. This is the thing I've been probably most afraid to talk about in detail, not just the after photo, right? I've been public about it. It's on my Instagram and all that kind of stuff. Not the after photo, the before. So how I got to 306 pounds without noticing. This is the part that every single founder, if you're an entrepreneur or you're a founder, you're going to recognize this part because it didn't happen overnight. That's the thing people don't understand about this. Nobody wakes up one day and they're 100 pounds overweight or 50 pounds overweight. It's a pound here, 5 pounds, a belt notch, a shirt size, pant size, going from large to XL to double XL, thinking that you could fit into something else because it makes you look snug. It's so gradual that you adjust without necessarily really adjusting mentally. During the worst of it, I was waking up, looking at Slack, emails, all before my feet even hit the floor. Coffee, no breakfast. I had no time. I was so stressed. Back-to-back meetings, literally throughout, not even lunch. There is no lunch. And it's whatever I could smash in my face in 5 seconds between one meeting to the next meeting. Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, whatever's the fastest, whatever I could get. I either skip dinner or I'll eat at 10 p.m. after I finished meeting with my engineers in Ukraine. The ones that I first hired when I first started Clockwork. And it was never a situation where I consciously made decisions to do what I needed to do to be better for myself. And I was running on fumes. There were legitimately 7 days a week, 12 to 14-hour days every single day for just about 2 years. Exercise, not a chance. I told myself, oh yeah, maybe after this, or after I get this out, or after this release, or after this fundraise, or after this product launch, or there was always a moving goalpost. And the next thing always took priority, always took priority. And the stress eating, I'm a stress eater. Ever since I was a kid, I was always a stress eating. But the stress eating nobody talks about. When you're carrying the weight of a company, literally and figuratively, payroll, investors, employee problems, team morale, customers, signing new deals, food becomes the easiest release valve when you're an emotional stress eater. And it's available, it's immediate. It's something that you're going to eat, and it doesn't require you to be vulnerable with anyone. I wasn't eating at times because I was hungry. I was eating because I didn't know what else to do. I was overwhelmed, and it was the one thing that I could control that didn't require a meeting. It didn't require someone else telling me if they can or can't do it, or an investor, me literally hinging on that investor, looking at clothes, kept buying bigger clothes. And it wasn't even a thing. Like I was just like, oh, that's fine. I'll just get this. And, this different brand fits better. Or this is the scary thing is I've avoided mirrors. I would walk by a mirror and I purposely would not look into the mirror. And I became an expert at angling my body or convincing myself that I'm still muscular, I'm big, no one's going to mess with me. All the energy, all the mental bandwidth spent behind hiding from myself instead of dealing with it because I had bigger things to do. I was building a company and I'm building something important. My health can wait, or my it's not that bad. It can't get that bad. Successful people sacrifice. This is what sacrifice looks like. That's always what I kept playing in my head. And I wore my neglect like a badge of honor. Grinding, I'm grinding. I think that that's the most bullshit thing that people tell people. Like being unhealthy was proof of how hard I was working. The startup world reinforced that. Nobody questions the founder who's grinding 16-hour days. They celebrate it. People are like, "Oh yeah, you're doing it. You're killing it." Nobody asks if that founder is happy, can still walk up a flight of stairs without losing his breath, can sleep 4 hours, 5 hours at night. I didn't ignore my health. I sacrificed it on purpose because I convinced myself that my company needed me more than my body needed me. And that rocked my world when I finally stood on the scale. So the turning point of the scale was I had sold my condo to keep my company alive. I bootstrapped Clockwork for the first 4 years and we were running out of money. I had no line of sight on investment because I kept trying to force something in the Midwest, in Chicago, because I had that Midwest pride. I didn't talk to any of the coasts and I had sold my condo. COVID happened and I moved back home because I couldn't afford anything. I wasn't paying myself. I went 2 years without paying myself, spent every dollar that I had in the bank. And everything about Clockwork was it, right? So I was living back at home. I'll never forget this. I woke up one morning and the scale was always in my bathroom at my parents' house. And I was like, it can't be that bad. And I always ignored it, right? It was always sitting there right in the middle of the bathroom. And I woke up that day and it was a Saturday. I'll never forget that. It was a Saturday. Walked in, went to the bathroom right after I woke up, brushed my teeth, and I was like, eh, let's just do it. And I remember standing in front of it and I was like, do I actually want to know? Like, probably what, 250, 260 still? Like, it's not that big of a deal. And I kind of knew deep down, like, it wasn't going to be good. It wasn't what I thought it was. But there's a difference between suspecting something and then seeing it confirmed in numbers, right? The numbers don't lie. I'm a finance guy. That's what they always taught us. Numbers do not lie. You can lie about the story behind the numbers, which is what I did, right? I lied about the stories about the number, right? I lied that it was worth it. I lied that I needed to do this. And then when I stood on the scale, 306, and the number just sat there. It didn't care about my excuses, right? It didn't care that I was a CEO. It didn't care about my fundraise or the money that I was losing or my product roadmap or my investors or my employees, my LinkedIn following. 306 was the number. And the number was telling me that while I was building my company, I literally was destroying myself. Um, I remember looking at that number and I was just shocked. And I stood off, got back on, reweighed myself. I was like, that can't be right. Moved it. I was like, that can't be right. But I wasn't angry. I was shocked. I was so surprised and that I was lying to myself. The lie was fine, right? The lie that health could wait. The lie that the company needed me at 306 pounds more than it needed me to be alive, functioning at the age of 50. The realization that hit me the hardest was if I died, if my heart gave out, if something happened, Clockwork would survive, right? The company would figure it out. They'd hire someone, they'd pivot, they'd keep going, or they'd shut down. But my family wouldn't just figure it out, right? My parents wouldn't just move on. But my parents, my family, the company I was killing myself for would either cease to exist and my team members would go find another job easily, or my my company would carry on, right? The people I love couldn't. And that math broke me because I was pouring everything into a company that would survive or die without me while neglecting the one body that couldn't be replaced. That's not dedication. That's not grinding. That's not anything to be proud of. That was absolute delusion. And I was delusional and lying to myself. So the hard truth about what it took to lose 100 pounds, I mean, when I say it, it sounds kind of made up still. And I want to be clear about something. There wasn't like a one decision that changed everything kind of story, right? This wasn't, it's done, right? The decision to change was one moment. The actual change took years. I mean, it's been about 2 years from my heaviest to my most fit right now. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than fundraising, harder than losing all my money, harder than spending all my money in my company, harder than building a product, harder than hiring people, harder than board meetings getting destroyed. Because with a company, you can delegate or you can look at other things or you can ask people and talk to people and work things. With your body, it's just you, right? You are the only person responsible for what goes in your body. And the first few months were brutal. I mean, they were brutal, but I knew there was no going back and I had to relearn everything. It wasn't a diet. People always talk about it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And I had to figure out what actually hungry meant versus stressed. And I had to learn how to cook the healthy meals and eat the healthy meals. I had to make something that wasn't clockwork. And that felt at first like I was cheating the system. I was cheating the grind. I was cheating my company. Every time I would go for a walk or go work out or go do something, people were always calling me. And I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta jump back and I gotta stop doing this and stop. There were multiple workouts that I had to stop to go back and do something. And then I'm like, what am I doing? That can wait, right? The guilt, that's the part that nobody talks about in weight loss stories, health transformations. I felt guilty for taking care of myself, right? Guilty for leaving the office to work out, guilty to take calls during the day while I'm walking, guilty for saying no to a dinner meeting because I meal prepped, guilty for saying no, I don't want to do a certain thing, but guilty for saying no in general. And I was so wrapped up in the self-sacrifice that doing anything for yourself feels selfish. And I had to fight that voice every day for years, legitimate years. And that mental shift that actually made it stick, I stopped thinking about it as taking time away from my company, taking time away from clockwork, and started thinking about it as becoming a better CEO. Because the truth is, I don't care what you do, who you are, at 306 pounds of unhealth fat, I was a worse leader. I was tired. I was foggy. I was irritable. I was always pissed off. I was always hurting. I was always mad. I was always making decisions from a place of physical depletion. When I started eating right and moving my body, my thinking got sharper. My patience got longer. My energy changed. My attitude changed. I wasn't always suffering. I wasn't always in pain. The company didn't suffer when I prioritized my health. It got better. We blew up when I started losing weight. The identity crisis for me in the middle, like when you've always been the big guy, people, oh, you're the big guy or the big man, da da da, your entire adult life. When your friends know you as the guy who loves his food, who eats, your identity is wrapped up in I work so hard, I don't have time. I don't have time to take care of myself. And no one around you is even going to add to the stress that you have because they're scared, because you're so irritable, because you're so mad, they're afraid to say anything. And so I lost myself. And it was one of those biggest shifts there that not everyone is comfortable with the new version of me, right? Some people in my life didn't know how to relate to me anymore. After I lost my weight and I stopped eating sugar and junk and fried and da da da, and I was always walking and always working out and I was always doing active stuff. That was lonely in its own way, right? The nonlinear reality is I didn't lose 100 pounds in a straight line, right? There were weeks where I gained weight back. There were certain days that were tough. There were months where I plateaued, months where I plateaued. I think I plateaued for like 6 months. I couldn't go below 250. And I was like, this just isn't worth it. And then I'll get back up to 260. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta figure this out. Or business trips where old habits would creep back, right? I would drink a little bit or I'd eat a little bit and, oh, you're eating garbage because you're at a hotel or you want to go out to eat and you're not going to get, a salad. And every setback felt like proof that the old version, the old fatty, was the real one. And right, this new healthy version was just a phase. Fighting that narrative was legitimately as hard, if not harder, as than the physical work. And losing the weight was hard, But the hardest part wasn't the gym, it wasn't the diet. It was legitimately the mental shift that I had to go through to give myself permission to matter even more than my company. And what I wish I knew, or what I know that I wish I knew then, if you're a founder, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business person listening to this and you just skipped lunch for the third day and you think, oh, I'm grinding, I'm meeting, blah, 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 blah. Or you can't remember the last time you worked out. You can't remember the last time you hit 5,000 steps, let alone 10 or 15. You're wearing clothes that are a size bigger than you were 6 months ago because you're like, baggy is the new trend. Baggy is the style, telling yourself it's fine. It's not fine. And I say that with all the love and support in the world, right? Because I told myself that same lie for years and no one around me wanted to tell me anything. They all were scared because I was going through so much. They don't want to add another thing on my list. And your company is not more important than your body. Your thing, whatever it is, it's not more important than your health. It's not more important than your body. And I know that sounds obvious. Like even me saying it now, it's like, no shit. But if we're obvious, every single person in the world, every founder that I know wouldn't be running on caffeine and cortisol, right? We intellectually understand health matters. Absolutely. But we emotionally believe what we're working on comes first. We can prioritize X over myself. And that's the gap that legitimately almost killed me. I mean, the pain that I was in, I would literally feel my heart beating. When was the last time you felt your heart beating? Right? There is no, I'll deal with it later. There's no magical quarter or magical milestone that things are going to calm down. Once I sign this deal, once I do that, the chaos is the chaos. You want to run a company, you want to do the stuff. There's always going to be shit in life that allows you to make those excuses. And if you wait for that next thing, it's never going to come. You'll be waiting for literally ever. And you have to build your health into your life and not around it. And so what I'd go back and tell the version of me standing on that scale at 306 is you're not broken. You're not lazy. You're a person who gave too much shit about something that you stopped giving a shit about yourself. And that's fixable, right? But you legitimately have to start today. The whole Monday bullshit, the milestone, the moving goalposts, all that gone. Start today. There's even a thing where now it's changed my entire life. The ripple effect of getting healthy just doesn't change my body. It showed up of how I was as a person, as a son, as a brother, as a leader, as a friend. I have energy for conversations I used to be too tired to have. I would think, oh, well, I won't do that because I'm too tired. No, now I'm present in ways that I couldn't be when my body was in constant survival mode because my mind was in survival mode. So the people around me, they get a better version of me now, right? And the company got better because I became a better CEO. Clockwork became successful. My employees became successful. My team, right? Not because I worked more, because I actually cared about myself. I walked. I did all the stuff that I became addicted to walking, right? So here I am, 100 pounds lighter, which is it's still insane. And the work has never stopped. And remember what I said about not looking at mirrors when I was 306 pounds. There was a solid year when I was weighing just about 215, 210, 215. I couldn't look in the mirror because I did not recognize who I was at 215. I knew myself at 306. I knew myself of 280, 270, 260. I knew myself. And I had, it was like, yeah, that's fatty. When I was 210, I literally could not look at myself in the mirror because I had no idea who was looking at me back. There were times where I'm walking to the office when I lived in Boston. You walk by those buildings. I lived in the city in the South End, and you walk by the buildings and you look over and you kind of check yourself in the reflection of the building. There were times where I'm like, who the fuck is that? And I'm like, shit, nice. Like we look good because I'm so used to not having that. And it took a long time to genuinely accept myself at 210. And there are still times where I had to choose myself versus going and creeping back. Right. But that difference is because I knew the 306. I've been there and I'm never going back ever. right? I spent years building something I was proud of while becoming someone I legitimately did not recognize. Then 100 pounds later, I finally looked like the person I've been on the inside the entire time. And it took me a long time to recognize that same person. So I'm going to be super real. This is one of the most vulnerable episodes I've ever had on this podcast. It's one thing to talk about business struggles and the board and investors and fundraising and all that shit. And that's almost expected from a founder. But standing here or sitting here and telling you I was 306 pounds, that I hid from mirrors, that I ate my stress every day instead of dealing with it, that's different. And that's the stuff you don't put on LinkedIn. It's easy to post like, oh, we raised all this money, we did all this shit, we did all this, we did all that, but no one's talking about the real. But this is why the podcast exists. This is why the Real Slim Fatty Show is here, right? If one person hears this and steps on a scale today, tomorrow morning, and they step on the scale and they make the decision that they've been avoiding or makes the doctor's appointment that they've been putting off, just gives themselves permission to leave the office and go for a walk, stick to that, then this was worth every second of vulnerability that I have sharing this story, sharing this episode. So this really is going back to the comeback of the Real Slim Fatty Show, right? Just like I let the podcast drift from its original mission, the purpose. I let my health drift from my priorities. And so season 2 is about course correction across the board. The podcast, the health, honesty, it's all connected. So thank you all for letting me share this story with you, because this is as real as it gets for me. And then this next episode, I want to talk about something every founder carries, but no one admits. And that's the loneliness of this journey. Not the I work from home kind, the I am surrounded by people and I can't tell any of them what I'm actually going through, even though they love me kind. That one almost got me too. So thank you all for checking out the Real Slim Fatty Show. I'm Fatty Hawatma, and we will catch you next time.